guys, before I start the video, make sure you vote in the upper right corner for which car you think is going to win this race. Also, come on, check us out on Instagram. Let's hit it. This is a 1967 Chevrolet Chevelle. And it might look like any other run-of-the-mill super sport Chevelle, but I can guarantee you it's not. Because this car is a well-documented L78. And even if you're not a fan of Chevrolet, I think we can all admit that the L78 is an absolutely fantastic car. So come on in, let's all hug this out. Don't be shy, you guys.
Oh, you too, Poncharo.
Oh,
buddy.
Of course, the shining star of the L78 is the engine, because we're talking 375 underrated horsepower at 5,600 RPM and 415 pound-feet of torque at 3,600 RPM, all with a compression ratio of 11:1. And I say these cars are underrated because Hot Rod Magazine actually tested an L78 in July of 2016. The engine they used had a 0-30 overbore, so technically it was a 402, but otherwise the carburetor, intake, camshaft, heads, exhaust manifolds, everything else was to stock specifications. And what results do you think they saw? 425 horsepower at 5,800 RPM and 445 pound-feet of torque at 3,600 RPM. So yeah, that L78 was just a little bit underrated. And even, dare I say, a sleeper? But the Chevelle's gonna need that extra power. It's not exactly the lightest vehicle. This one, with driver, is coming in at 3,885 pounds. There were quite a few transmission options available in the Chevelle that year. The standard was a 3-speed manual, but for $105 you could upgrade to the 4-speed like this car. You could still get a Power Glide, or for the first time ever, you could get the Turbo 400, but that was gonna set you back $231. This specific Chevelle came from the factory with positive traction and 331 gears. But since then it's been upgraded to a 410 set, and that should help that L78 get revving real quick. You guys might be wondering, well, what exactly was the cost of an L78 Chevelle in 1967? And lucky for us, the owner of this car has posted the paperwork, so why don't we take a closer look? You'll see everything listed, the Super Sport package, the L78, the 4-speed, and then of course a few other options, and that gives a grand total of $3,577, which adjusting for inflation would be $27,703 today. I'd say that's a hell of a deal, you guys. And the next question would be, well, how many L78s did they sell in 1967? And it wasn't very many, only 612. And that's probably because Chevrolet removed all of the information about the L78 option from their advertisements and brochures. I mean, take a look at this one. If I zoom in, you'll see they talk about the 325 and the 350 horsepower versions, but there's no mention of the L78. And I don't know why, because this car is awesome. Enough talk about this 1967 Chevrolet Chevelle. Let's check out its opponent. This is a 1968 Pontiac Firebird, but it's not just any Firebird, because this one is a Ram Air II. But let's talk a little bit more about that Ram Air engine. It had revised cylinder heads with round exhaust ports, a hotter cam with longer duration, forged pistons, enlarged push rods, a modified distributor curve, stiffer valve springs, and of course the Ram Air intake. Altogether it was rated 340 horsepower at 5,400 RPM and 435 pound-feet of torque at 3,600 RPM. Not to mention a compression ratio of 10.75:1. And I already know what you guys are thinking, it's, well wait a minute, that exact same engine in the GTO was rated 360 horsepower, so what gives? Well, remember this was 1960s GM and they had a lot of stupid rules, like the weight to horsepower ratio of a car could not exceed 10:1. Pretty typical though, it just seemed like wherever GM went, a stupid rule was soon to follow.
Here's you, here's Matt, there's you, there.
So then, in the case of the Firebird, the maximum allowed horsepower was 340 because the curb weight was between 3,300 and 3,400 pounds. Pontiac accomplished this slightly decreased horsepower rating by putting a restrictor tab on the throttle linkage, and that way the secondaries could only open to 90%. People quickly realized if you just remove that tab, well hey, you just gained at least 20 horsepower, with some accounts saying even closer to 35 horsepower. You could get a Turbo 400 3-speed automatic in the Ram Air II cars, but that was a really rare combo. But not this car. This one's got the 4-speed. Helping that Ram Air get the power to the ground is a safety track differential and a set of 410 gears. And I like that differential because you know what I always say? Safety first. The Pontiac does have a slight weight advantage in this match because with driver it's coming in at 3,630 pounds. If you're keeping track, that's 255 pounds less than the Chevelle. The 68 Firebird RAM AIR II cars were pretty rare. They only made 110 of them. And if we break that down a little bit, 12 came with automatic transmissions and 98 had 4 speeds. But enough talk about these two cars. Let's see what they can do on the drag strip.
This is great. Nobody's in front of it. No one came back. A little weird.
And the Firebird takes this one running a 13.01 at 110.90 miles per hour. But that Chevelle was close behind running a 13.37 at 107.04 miles per hour. And I do have to say that the conditions weren't great that day. There was a really strong headwind, so these cars were running a little bit slower than usual. Either way, it's absolutely awesome seeing these cars run, so let's check it out one more time.
No one came back. A little weird.
Thanks for checking out this drag race, you guys, and I'll see you at the next one.